I will pass it to Chrystal.
Awesome. All right, we are actually going to hop right into Q&A because we have a lot of questions, so we're going to try to get to as many as we can. Okay, number one says, when budgeting check to check, how do you plan for annual expenses? So what I typically recommend to people is, if you normally have like your regular pay and then you have like commission maybe that you may earn every so often, or maybe you have a bonus that you receive, or if you know typically you always get tax refunds, I would dedicate those funds to those annual expenses, or even to those one-off expenses. Now, something else that you can use is, if you're saving, one thing that both and I both have done, as well as what we tell people, is to tithe 10% and save 10%. Even if 10% is very little, over time, it's going to grow. Again, it's about just kind of taking baby steps to get to where you're going. Ashley, you want to add to anything on that one?
Can you repeat the question?
How do you budget annual expenses? So something that may not be a monthly expense, but like an annual car registration, something like that.
Yes, I would definitely say doing the things that Chrystal said, and also just maybe even having like a dedicated account for annual expenses, and really researching ahead before to see if there's going to be any increase in those expenses, because we can budget for one thing and then we'll see, our health insurance was raised or things of that nature.
Awesome. Okay, Ashley, this question is directed to you. Can you talk about how to secure funding, in particularly with starting a business, without having a ton of on-hand cash?
Oh yeah, this story of my life. So when I started a business, you guys, I started a business with zero shmoney. I did not have any money. And so what I recommend doing is utilizing the free internet to start researching how to start specific businesses. So for me, I have an online-based business. So in order for me to create products, I only need my laptop, and I had to learn what other people were doing when it came to building courses, to getting their messaging out there. So I really I advise starting by just simply researching. If you can Google it, start there. If you can attend people's free webinars, start there. But I would say consume all of the free information that you can. And then once you can save up to invest in maybe like a $97 course, that you do it. Because when one of the things that Chrystal, you said, is that millionaires, they invest, they read. So there is going to come a point where you're going to want to invest in yourself. But I didn't have to take out any loans to start my business. I didn't have to do any of that. I just simply started making money little by little. And then I started reinvesting my earnings into building and growing and scaling my business.
Awesome. Something else I share with my clients, I do a lot of business consulting, is same thing like Ashley, just use what you have. Even personally, when I started my accounting practice, I was using my same computer from college. I just used what I had. It was slow, but I said, you know what, I need to do something I need to make some money before I'm just going to spend money. Even in my office, before it was decorated, it was super plain, because I was committed to not going in debt when I'm really trying to make money. Yeah. A lot of people ask me about, do I need to get an LLC right away? That's going to depend on the industry. If you are in an industry where maybe you're working with kids, you are maybe working with the elderly or transportation, yeah, it's going to make sense in those cases. But other than that, just start. Literally, just start. You don't even need a DBA. Just start doing business as yourself. And slowly, like Ashley was saying, the pieces will connect. You'll start investing where you need to invest. But honestly, for most businesses, there are very few startup expenses.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 2. Well, this is a good one. This is a student. How can you build a business while studying? I'll pass this over to you.
Yeah. Build a business while you're studying. It depends on what type of business, but I'll tell you what, when I was in college, there were successful businesses by women doing hair. in college. So it's literally just saying, what is the need on my college campus, or if you're in high school, what is the need? And how can I provide a solution to it? When I was in college, my college town was in the middle of nowhere. There weren't hairdressers or beauticians. So women on the campus started building their own businesses. Like, oh, I'll braid your hair for $20. So just see what skills you have and where there's a need.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Next question. This is a very common question, especially right now. It says, how do you recommend paying off student loans during the pandemic? So right now, a part of the CARES Act, which was passed a couple of weeks ago, says that student loans, you can defer them, and then they are just right now, they're not gaining any interest. So some people have contacted me saying, hey, Chrystal, should I just chunk all my extra money and just pay these loans off? And I would say it just depends. So number one, you really have to make sure that you have a really good chunk of savings, because again, you don't want to take advantage of this. All your money goes to your saving, or all your money goes to debt. You get furloughed, you lose your job, and now you have to go back into debt just to support yourself until the economy picks back up. So my answer to this would be, if you do have significant savings, when I say significant, like at least 6 months worth of savings, absolutely start chunking some extra payments toward that student loan, especially while it's not getting any interest. However, if you don't have that emergency savings, and 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses, really that should be your focus right now, just so that you don't have to go back into debt if you have to. You know, there's no sense on paying off something else just to get a loan, you know, just to kind of live off of.
That's good.
All right, next question. Ashley, how do you start to build a workbook?
A workbook. Well, I've built every so that's a good, okay, so I'm just assuming like an online workbook, I assume. So again, you can utilize free websites. So I build all of my workbooks on Keynote or PowerPoint, and then I export them as a PDF. You also can use websites like Canva or PicMonkey. They have free options where they give you templates and you can build workbooks that way for free, $99.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. There's a question. I'm going to take one from the chat box. It says, what are some indicators that it's time to expand? Hire staff, maybe outsource some of those things? That's a great question, because initially in the beginning stages of having a business, you're everything. You're the janitor, you're the accountant, you're the marketer, you're the social media brand manager. You are any and everything in those initial stages. And then I would say once you start gaining enough income to where your personal expenses are satisfied, and I don't mean like you live in this lavish lifestyle, but just enough to where you and your family are comfortable, even if you are kind of living off a minimalist lifestyle, is really start to implement those people, especially people like a lawyer, an accountant. Once you get to a certain level from a financial perspective, you do need some help, just so that you don't pay Uncle Sam a whole lot more than you need to, or just so you don't get yourself in a legal bind. Like, if there are some things, if you're really not knowledgeable, just have a simple business consultation to see, okay, when would that right time be? As far as hiring staff, anytime where you feel like you were exhausted and overworked, it's time to outsource. At the end of the day, yes, we all want these businesses, but we don't want that to come at the expense of our families. And if our families are never seeing us, not saying it may be like that for a very short time frame, but if it's extended, oh yeah, we definitely need to push off some of this work, even if it's a little at a time, even if it's getting you, a couple hours back per week. That's time now that you have for your family, so that you can cultivate, again, the things that really matter and not solely your business.
Excellent.
Ashley?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And just speaking from my situation, so I have like contract people that help. So I have people that manage like my community groups, and I started hiring them when it was too much for me and it was taking my focus off of scaling and building my business. So when you're like, okay, as the CEO of your company, there's things that only you can do. So when it comes to some of the administrative things that are busy work, it's important that you find someone, even if it's an intern, to help you with those things so you can focus on what's going to continue to move your company forward and the things that other people can't really do. And also, it's time to start hiring people when you want a certain quality of work. So when I first started, I did like all of my graphic design work. Now I hire a graphic designer to make our event flyers, to create just different graphics that we need, because I want to have better quality. So when you have that additional income where you're like, okay, I can invest in a graphic designer, I can invest in getting an intern and maybe giving them a stipend. But you really know when you're, like Chrystal said, you're feeling overwhelmed, overworked, and you're like, okay, I need some help.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, next question says, for blogs, how do you come up with content to write? I'll pass this over to you first.
Okay, so I don't personally have a written blog. I know Chrystal does. I do, I guess, what you can consider video blogs. And how I come up with that content is by asking, what are people asking me? Or who is my target market? So for me, my calling is helping people when it comes to the relationships, dating, marriage. And I will start creating content based off of what I know. So how I started creating content on my channel was talking about my experiences, talking about some of the things that I went through and that I grew through. So you can think about your past experiences and say, you know what, I can start off by writing about my financial journey, and then I can open it up to my audience once my audience grows to see what else they want me to share about.
Awesome. Absolutely. For me, as far as blogs, the Holy Spirit usually gives me things to write about. He'll drop something in my spirit, and I'll just start writing it on my phone. I'll also just look and see what's going in the world. What do I feel like maybe women? My blog is catered more towards women and finances, and so I'll just see, what's going on. What are some people dealing with? Lately I've been writing about just spiritual identity and just the balance and juggling act of being a woman. So for me, I really just look at, okay, what do I feel that people are looking for? What do they have questions on? And then I go from there. Okay. How are we able to find someone who is successful financially to mentor us? That's a really great question, because a lot of people feel like, I'm just not around that circle of influence. I'm in the red and I am the most financially prosperous. And that's common. And really, I would just look out on, social media now has so many resources. You can search through hashtags. You can search through different Facebook groups. I would start there just because it's super easy. You could probably do that all from your phone. I would also look at just different seminars that are going on, kind of like things like this, like people you could reach out to, some speakers where you could say, hey, can I run a couple of questions by you? It never hurts to ask. I always tell people, just reach out to them. You never know what they're going to say. And you never know who is a millionaire. All the millionaires I know wear t-shirts and shorts and flip-flops. They just look like regular people. It's not the people with the flashy cars, and not saying that there aren't any, but typically they're going to look like just regular John Does, So that's my answer. Actually, you have anything else to share?
Yeah. And just from my personal experience, I was not raised in a household where we had money, and my mom was on, government assistance. I was on free lunch. So I did not have the financial education and knowledge. And although as I got older, I wasn't reckless with money, I did not know what to do with it. And I remember early on when my husband and I first got married, I said, you know what? I'm going to study finances because I want to be the change in my generational legacy. And I want my children to have a different experience. And so I did that. By not having any money at the time, I started reading books. You can go to the library. You can, like Chrystal said, utilizing social media. You can just have conversations with people like Chrystal said, but the number one thing that helped me was reading books. I mean, somebody asked about a few book recommendations. Like, I'm telling you, Chrystal mentioned The Millionaire Next Door. Excellent book. One of the books that changed my mindset when it came to business was The Secrets of Six-Figure Women. Excellent book. But you can really just start to utilize free resources. Also, I will say that since I mentioned books, if you go to audible.com, I think /Ashley Empowered, you can get a free audiobook to check that out as well.
Awesome. Well, there are several questions that we may try to answer in the chat during our lunch break, but our time is up and we do want to stay on task because our afternoon session is going to be just as powerful as the morning session. So if you will give Ashley a round of applause, and myself, I forgot I went earlier too. It was awesome. Feel free, Ashley, if you want to link your social media or website in the chat, and I will as well. Ladies, we're going to take a 30-minute lunch break. So we're going to come back at 12:45 Central Time, and we will have our Tightest 2 Women panel. You don't want to miss it. These women have tons of knowledge they have deposited